Hey, what's up, all my dorky Nerf flingers out there? I wanted to try a new segment on my channel called Blaster Talk. So, this is the inaugural Blaster Talk sort of video. The idea is where I start off with a blaster and talk all things nerdy and nerfy. This kind of came to me as an inspiration while I was at Survival Fest. I'll talk about that later on. So yeah, I just wanted to talk about a hobby that's a lot of fun, and I think more people should be involved in. Now, let's talk about Nerf. First of all, this is a toy. It's a blaster. It's not a gun. For most of you out there that immediately say gun when we look at these things, they're not. They're blasters. It's a toy. This does not shoot real steel. It can't really hurt anybody. Although eye protection is a must. Eyes are sensitive and can easily be hurt. So always remember that. But Nerf is about, and I want to talk about in general my philosophy on it. Nerf's about kids, and Nerf should always be about kids. It should be about allowing young folks to just have fun with a toy and inspire creativity, organization, playing together with others, and just generally good things. I've never heard negative experiences. Well, I shouldn't say never. I've heard maybe a few, one or two cases, but generally speaking, any child that plays with Nerf and goes to like a Nerf birthday party or Nerf event have a blast, pun intended, right? So Nerf should always be about kids. And if I had any messaging to Hasbro, I would say always remember that. Make sure it's your mantra, motto that when you design these Nerf blasters, it's always about the kids. And then you can let us adult kids take your designs and enhance our hobby. Let's just say, and I'll talk about what I mean about that in a minute. But so it's always about the kids. Nerf blasters should come out and never be something that is like high FPS. FPS, for those that don't know, is feet per second. It's what's measured. It's how we measure Nerf blasters. Nerf blasters shoot these foam rounds, darts. This is typical. Although Nerf is now trying to, or Hasbro, I should say, is trying to change their rounds, and that's a whole different kettle of fish and discussion. Maybe another blaster talk we'll talk about that. But so you're shooting these at about anywhere between a range, I would say 40 FPS to about 80. Rivals, which are these round ones, usually shoot about 90 feet per second, but typically we're here. No Nerf toy should shoot over 90. If you ask me, in my opinion, Hasbro should always put out products that's meant for children and to really give children that fun that can be had with these Nerf blasters. For us adults, we turn it into adult tag and we play games like humans versus zombies and competitive outdoor stuff and just get together in groups and play outdoors. And we enhance these to shoot more than your standard 40 to 80 FPS. We're now shooting darts like this anywhere between 120 to 200 plus FPS. Now, some of you may say, "Oh, that's getting dangerous and whatnot." Yes, it can be, but Nerf in general and the hobby and the people involved in it always take extra care to make sure it's safe and fun for everyone. Now, let me just share with you. That's Al the Geek. He's a buddy of mine. I'm going to talk about him in a minute. But I want to talk about my group, Toronto Area Nerf Group. Shouts out to them. They do a fantastic job. I recommend it if you're in the Toronto area or anywhere close by, check out their schedule and come out to an event. If you have a Nerf blaster, bring it on down, but I can guarantee you there'll be more than enough people willing to share upgraded or more appropriate blasters for the event with you, so that you can have a good time. So if you're in the Toronto area, please check them out. They're a fantastic group. I can't say enough good things about them, really. But back to this. So my buddy Al the Geek, I'll go to his page. Why not talk about him? First of all, Al does fantastic work. He does custom blasters, and if you're in the market, I would suggest picking one of these guys up. This piece here is, I just love this piece. I think it's Space Marines type cosplay blaster. He altered. Anyways, this kind of thing is fantastic. This is amazing. If you can afford something like this, I would recommend you go out and purchase something. But Al has been a friend of mine since childhood. We're actually, I think, related some way. Don't ask me how. I don't want to pull out the family tree. But anyways, we've been friends for a long time, and he kind of introduced the adult tag part of the Nerf hobby. And when I say adult tag, I mean, adults who are still passionate about playing Nerf and like to mod and enhance their experience. Because let's be honest, if you're running around at each other trying to tag each other, and we're doing so at some considerable distances, a regular Nerf blaster, like the one that I have here, let me just switch, it's not going to get you a tag accurately. So, there's always that drive to be more accurate, more competitive with your game, which sometimes can be good and sometimes it can be bad, but I'm not here to debate that. I am here to talk about how much fun it is. The other thing about Nerf as a hobby, it really taps into your creativity and your ability to mod, build. It's really immersive and makes the brain work in good ways. Now, I want to talk about this blaster in particular and show you a mod that I did. So I turned this blaster, which is the Nerf AccuStrike Falcon Fire. Some of you may have this. I turned this into this. Let me see if I can get this into camera a little bit better. There's Al's sticker. Gotta promote the guy. He deserves it. So here's the blaster. This is a mod from the Falcon Fire. And essentially, when modding this thing, you're really only keeping the internals, this part of the blaster, and the handle piece. Everything else is gone. Trigger, except for this handle piece. If you want, you can keep this, but I got a 3D printed mod. And you can swap this out to create a blaster like this. So we start off with a blaster that shoots, if you're lucky, 60 FPS, these guys, to a blaster that shoots 120-ish, these short darts. And let me just say, short dart, I won't get into the debate now. Most of you out there that are watching this to know about the hobby understand why we play with short darts. If that's a thing that people want to know about, we can certainly do another discussion in another episode, hopefully, of Blaster Talk. We can talk about the short darts. But today I want to talk about the SPANF. Now, before I talk about my build process with this, I want to shout out the person that designed the SPANF originally, Gavin Fuzzy. I'm just going to go to Gavin's page here for a sec. There's Gavin. Props out to Gavin. Thank you for your innovation on the SPANF. I truly appreciate it. I think it's a fantastic blaster. I think anybody who's coming into the hobby, who is interested in playing this hobby and looking at a first-time build, the SPANF is one of those builds that I would recommend to anyone doing a first-time build of a blaster. The reason being is it's pretty simple. Really, all you're doing is you're taking screws apart, you're deconstructing the Falcon Fire, and you're adding parts back in. Basically, you're doing screws. You have to work with springs, lube, and then maybe some other attachments like I have here. This particular blaster is called a super duper spamf. It's mods that have been developed from the original spamf. And this is the thing about the hobby, right? Gavin designed the spamf, excuse me, the spamf, and a fantastic blaster on its own. Top prime. For those of you who don't know, top prime is when you prime the blaster from the top. So he designed this fantastic pistol top prime blaster. And then others in the hobby were like, yeah, that's amazing. You know what? I want to expand on it. I'd love a front prime. And someone designed the super part of the spamf. So this kit here. And then somebody else was like, you know, it would be nice if you had a stock attachment. So they designed the duper end of this blaster. My point to all that is that the hobby is really about, you know, taking something, innovating, and coming up with something, putting it out there, and other people expand on that innovation and add to it to make something that's really like amazing. I really enjoyed this blaster. I ran it in Survival Fest. I was completely happy with it. It slapped. It was hitting targets. No issues, no jam ups. This thing is fantastic. So my advice to anyone who is considering starting modding, I would do something like this. This is a really easy mod. You just have to get the kits together. The only thing you have to do is source someone to print the files for you, right? And once you got that, you can put it all together. It's kind of like Lego in a sense. But yeah, this was like my first real build, you know, of a blaster that works and functions the way I want it to. I love this thing. This thing's going to go on my wall, and I'm going to use this all the time wherever I can. The only thing about 3D printed parts you have to remember, for those out there, remember that this is still PLA plastic and is subject to heat. So if you're out you have this out in really hot, sunny weather, it could affect the blaster, could warp it, change the structure of the plastic, and you don't want that. So be careful with that kind of stuff. But other than that, this thing is solid. Not only does it look nice, I mean, it functions real well. I do want to talk about also a debate between what we call springers and flywheelers. For those that don't know, and I'll explain it to the detriment of those that do, so that you can cringe if you know already. A springer is basically a blaster that's powered by a spring. You're gonna prime the spring, release the spring, it ejects the dart. Okay. The other option is flywheels. It's an electric option, two motors spinning, ejecting your dart, mag fed. So I'm not going to talk about which one's better, because that's a debate that can be had, and there's opinions both ways. I don't think anybody's wrong for thinking that a flywheeler is a better blaster to run versus a springer. What I'll say, in my opinion, I tend to lean towards a springer better, as being better for me, because it's more, in my opinion, reliable. Batteries can run out. They can cause jam ups on the flywheels, I find, and you can eat through darts in no time. So if you'd like to pray and spray and just dump a mag of rounds out, that's probably your way to go if that's the way you like to play. I like to select my shots. I find springers are more reliable in that sense, and I like to time them. I don't want to just sit there and dump rounds downrange. But I like playing with my flywheelers too. So depending on the feel of the day. But I will say this though: if you're out in bad weather, a springer is more reliable. You don't want to be running something electronic in the rain, heavy rain that is. I mean, this could probably withstand some sort of moisture. I'm not going to wager how much, but I wouldn't dump this in water and try to use it type thing. Um, so that's all I'll say about that. Maybe one day we can in another edition of this sort of program. We could talk about the debate versus flywheelers versus springers. Now there's a thing hitting the market, AEBs. We won't talk about that at the moment because they're not really that accessible and available to everyone. Once they're in more hands, and there's a blaster coming out by X Shot, I forget their name. Once more people have it in their hands, we can talk about that in the conversation. But for now, in my opinion, it's Springer versus Flywheeler. And for me, I'd rather run a Springer. I feel more confident, right? I think that's what it is. Ultimately, it's a personal preference, so it doesn't really matter what you run. You know, whatever works for you. So you have to feel comfortable and confident with what you're running in your hand. Now let's talk about Survival Fest. Where am I using something like this? Well, first and foremost, Survival Fest happened May 30th to June the 1st. You have to apologize. I've been hit way too many times in the head. Don't let your kids play football. Anyway, I went down to Survival Fest, and the organizers there, let me just say, stop, give a little bit of a golf clap to you, a tip of the hat. You guys did a fantastic job. The organizers were great. The event was fantastic. I died on mission one. I'll talk about that in a minute. But it was a fantastic event. So for those that aren't aware, there are organizers out there that put together big weekend events. It's humans versus zombies, where there's a small group of zombies that start out and try to infest all the humans. Humans run around with blasters, tagging the zombies. And the gist of it is usually at the end, the zombie horde wins, right? They turn every last human into a zombie. So, and it's a ton of fun. It's done. This particular event was done at Ohio University in Athens, Ohio. We had almost 90% of the university campus to run around and play the game. There were intricacies about the game that maybe I'm not qualified to kind of talk about, but they make and enhance the gameplay. And it was tons of fun. I think 250 people showed up, and you run around and play the game. Me, myself, I came with this. My loadout was a little too crazy, and I think I need to scale it back a bit. But I started off, all my group of friends went out before me. I was still loading mags, and I have another story about that. But anyways, I was late, and I was loading up my mags, and everybody had gone. So I walked out, ready to play, and everybody's gone. Couldn't hear or see anybody. I'm like, you know what? I'll find my friends. I'll find a group of humans. It's not hard to find a group of 250 people somewhere on the campus playing a game, and I'll human surf until I find my group of friends. Anyways, I make a turn and I walk into essentially a horde of zombies. I'm like, whoops, I got to book out of there. And I run into a bunch of folks and realize that I'm in the advanced play area. So this event had play areas. So if you're a novice, they recommended you play in the novice area where it's more light and it helps you to understand the game better, and you're not going to die on the first mission. And then they had intermediate play areas, and then they had expert. Well, I happened to end up in an expert area at my second HVZ event ever. So I don't think I was prepared for it, but I tried my best. End up getting tagged out. But up until that point, this blaster ran fantastic for me. So again, I just want to shout out to Survival Fest folks. Fantastic job. 2 thumbs up. If you guys get a chance, anyone out there, I really recommend you go check this event out. Maryland Mayhem's another one that I went to, so that's another one I would recommend to anyone to go check out. But yeah, these guys are fantastic. I wanted to talk about hardware. want to show you. You can order from Gavin, but there's also um, Silver Fox Industries has a kit. You can see the kits here. This part of the kit has a metal barrel, looks like, but in this metal breech, you get a barrel. So if you email them, I'm sure they'll work with you to give you a deal. But these are the two kits that you need to build your spam if you're interested in it. And you have to source someone to print your 3D files. If you have a 3D printer, you can buy the files from Gavin. I think Gavin has the files. No, that's the full kit. He has files somewhere. Is this the files? No, that's the barrel. Anyway, you can source the files off of him. But again, if you're in the US, Silver Fox Industries has the kit for you here. So you can see how much it would cost. I think, what, 60, 70 USD to put this blaster together. If you have your own 3D printer and order the filament, this blaster will cost you about $100, right? If you were to try to buy something like this in the aftermarket, all put together, it'd be much more, I would imagine. Also, Silver Fox offers blasters that you can buy. And do they have blasters? Let's see. All blasters. So they have blasters that you can buy straight from them. I don't know exactly. I believe these come put together. Maybe not, or just the hardware kits. At this price, I'm assuming these are just hardware kits, but they have fully built blasters that you can buy, right? Here we go. One of Gavin Fuzzy's hardware kits, fully custom. The Smiley is a great blaster. That's awesome. Anyway, Silver Fox has a bunch of blasters you can buy. Another person that I met out there at Survival Fest and does a fantastic job is Containment Crew. They have a bunch of gear that you can run. I would definitely recommend checking them out. I bought a bunch of their stuff and I look forward to buying more down the road. Also, they have a Kickstarter. Anyone in the hobby knows about this, and I recommend that if you can afford it, get involved. I am particularly looking forward to, for those that don't know, this program is about creating tactical gear to carry your loadouts, but in a way when people look at you, they don't think you're invading their space. Like it's brightly colored stuff so people know that you're just out there playing a game. Fantastic concept, fantastic bunch of folks that put this together. I recommend supporting them. And the gear is great. I am looking forward to this H harness, if they can get to it. Where is it? The H rig here. This thing is what I'm looking forward to. I need this for my loadout so my belt doesn't keep falling off. But if you're if you're into the hobby and you want to look at supporting a good cause and something that you'll benefit from, I recommend checking out this Kickstarter. So go check them out if you can. Yes, they're a cool bunch of people. For sure. What else did I want to talk about today? Other than that, we talked about Survival Fest, which was great. Talked about building my first spam. Awesome experience. And again, I can't stress enough that if you haven't played, so most of us have played Nerf, and if you remember playing Nerf, having blaster battles in the basement with your buddies or your kids, and how much fun it was. And like I rarely hear some bad stories, other than I've heard stories of kids running into things and hurting themselves. Sure, but like for the most part, all those stories and experiences were positive. That doesn't have to stop. As you get older, there are spaces and places to play where you can get that excitement and have that fun. People will say to me, the other thing I want to say, they'll say, well, why don't you just go play paintball, or why don't you go play airsoft? Here's what I'm going to say about those things. If you're into those sports, great. They're fun. They can be. I find it's not where I want to be as an adult for some reasons. Paintball, um, on the top end of the scale, is the most painful. You get the most hurt. Your body welts and this and that. Also, the play there is pretty intense, and people tend to get into a lot of conflict around paintball. That's been my experience. Now, you may argue, well, you're playing the wrong groups, blah, blah, blah. I get it. I understand. But to be honest, that for those reasons, I'm out. Also, cost factor. Paintball's not cheap. Every round you put through it is not reusable, whereas, darts, you just pick them up and you can reuse them. Now, they do have a shelf life. That's another story, but these are reusable, whereas paintball is not. Once you send a round down, you got to pay for another one. So cost factor is another reason why. Then you look at airsoft. Airsoft, while it is fun, it's too milsim for me. The folks that play airsoft are a bit too serious about it. You know what I mean? That's been, again, my experience. Nothing wrong with airsoft. You can have tons of fun. And those of you that play, God bless. Go out and have your fun. But I tend to find that it gets a bit too serious. Also, cost factor. When you start looking at an airsoft blaster or firearm, whatever it is, they're extremely expensive. Your loadout could run you anywhere between $1,500 to $2,500, depending on what you got running, right? Whereas Nerf, it's just about having fun. Yeah, there are some guys that are a bit more serious, but those guys cool off real quick, especially when the community rallies around you. And the price to entry is not that expensive. You can get the top notch blaster out there for like, 400 or 500 bucks under. There's some flywheelers out there now that are 1,000. And sure, if you have the money, you can go out and get one. But I'm telling you, the $1,000 blaster that you can buy, this can compete with it for $100. You can still go out and play against that blaster. So, and for those reasons, I find the Nerf hobby, for me, works the best. The folks are fantastic. It's just about having fun. You can reuse your ammo. There's all this innovation and change in the hobby, and it's about having fun with toys. And that's the thing about, like, especially about airsoft. When you look at a group of guys playing airsoft, do you think they can go out in the park and run around and play without having a SWAT team come down on them? Probably not. You have a group of people running around with Nerf toys. People very quickly realize it for what it is. Although there are folks that still don't like the concept of, the GUN, but this is not a GUN. This is a blaster. They can't get past that, right? Some people are going to be sensitive, and that's the way. That's okay. We like those sensitive people. We need them in our lives, I guess. But anyways, that's why I think for me, this is kind of the hobby where I want to be. I don't want to be spending thousands of dollars on airsoft or paintball equipment. I just want to run around and tag some folks, have some fun, have some laughs, and enjoy myself. So again, to close it off, hopefully this is a segment that people enjoy and that I can do often. There's so many blasters we can talk about and put in front of us and have a discussion. If you have a suggestion of what I should talk about next, I would love to hear it, so that I can, kind of figure out which way I want to do my next blaster talk with. But I hope you enjoyed that. I hope you had a good time. I hope this is something that sticks around and we do more of. Thank you to all of you out there who have inspired me or welcomed me into this hobby, especially Al. Love you, man. I hope this is something that I can do and have fun with down the road. Anyways, hope you guys enjoyed that. We'll talk to you guys real soon. Ciao for now.